Okay, so now we know kind of what your property is worth. We've looked at the comps, we've adjusted our price now compared to what those comps are. And so now the question is, how much should I actually list my house for? So if we're thinking, okay, I think my house is really gonna sell for $400,000. Does that mean that I wanna go ahead and put it right on the market at $400,000 and see what happens? Or do I wanna try and test the market and push it up to maybe 410,000 and then just see? And this is what we hear a lot from sellers. They know that the market's hot. They know that there's so many buyers out there, and they know how much their property is really worth, that it's just skyrocketing almost every month at this point. And so they want to try and push those boundaries. They want to get the most for their property. And absolutely, we all want to get the most for our property. But it actually can be counterintuitive sometimes to list your property too high. And when we tell people this, it's kind of a little bit of a bummer because they're like, but I want to just list. It's so cool to see my house listed for so much money. But the problem is, if it does get listed for too high, some buyers might actually look at that and say, you know what, that house is actually, they're asking more for that house than they are for the house that's right down the street, and it's kind of the same thing. I don't really even want to look at that. I'm just going to go look at the cheaper one. And so what happens is a lot of buyers actually ignore your house altogether because they still want to get a deal. They know how hot this market is. This market is crazy, and they want to get a deal themselves. And if they see something that's priced too high from the start, they might not even look at it. And then in this market, houses are selling. They are going off the market within 3, 4, 5 days sometimes. There's so many offers coming in that it goes into escrow very, very quickly. And so if some buyers are kind of standoffish on that higher price, well, then what happens is it's going to stay on the market for maybe a week or two. And if your property is on the market for 2 weeks in this market right now, then everyone else is going to start looking at that property and they're going to say, okay, why is that thing on there for 2 weeks when everything else is selling in 3 or 4 days? Something must be wrong. And now everyone's even scared to take a look at your property. So you have to be really careful not to overprice, because you could just shoot yourself in the foot. And then if you do a price reduction, well, that stigma is still on your property. Why do they need to do a price reduction? Why did it stay so long in this hot market? And you could be in some really hot water there. On the other hand, if you price it low, which is what we suggest, so if it's worth $400,000, maybe you price it at $389. Maybe you price it at $394, something like that, where it's just under what it's worth. Well, now what's the buyer's mentality? Oh, I'm going to get a really good deal, because the buyers and the buyer's agents know, hey, this house is actually worth $400,000. It might actually go above $400,000, but they're actually only asking $390 to $395. That means that we have a lot of room to work with here. So we're actually going to be able to overbid like crazy. Like, we are still in our budget if we go $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 above asking, because they're already asking less than what it is right now. So what actually happens is you get a ton of buyers in that property because they all want a good deal. They're like sharks coming to a really good deal. They can smell it, they want it, and now they're all bidding at each other like crazy. You might push that price up so high, just like you saw in the video that we just did. We set the comp for that area because all the other houses, we listed it a little bit lower, thinking that we were going to get maybe 10,000, 15,000 more. But it started this bidding war, and now everyone wants your property. And now they're willing to pay even more just because they think they're getting a really good deal. It is such a good strategy for sellers to price it just a little bit under and then let the buyers go at it. And if they really want it, they will push that price up for you, and you'll actually end up getting more than you would if you tried to ask for too much at the beginning.